Hello, I'm Posh Geordie. Welcome to another video on my channel where I will be recording on a black pencil case because I needed a background for special effects that I'll be having in this episode. It's not a TV series where I will be explaining the seven types of generations. Now, can I just say right off, this is going to be a very boring video. All my videos are quite boring because they're mainly information videos and not supposed to be fun or funny videos. They're mainly supposed to be informing and stupid. So basically, the seven types of generations. Now, what is a generation? Well, Google, as being the source I get most of my stuff from, says all of the people born and living at about the same time regarded collectively. So, and you may have heard phrases such as millennials and baby boomers, but I'm not sure you've heard people go in depth about that. So I will go into depth about that in the seven types of generations. So I'll start at the very beginning, the greatest generation. They were born between 1910 and 1924. They were called the greatest generation purely because they were the first generation to start naming themselves, and I did not make that joke. I got that off a comedy radio show. So yeah. They're called that because this is what they think of themselves. They think they fought not for fame or for glory or for wealth, but just because it was the right thing to do, symbolising because they probably were being fighting in the Second World War and alive during the First World War. So and they obviously thought very highly of themselves. Obviously, if you were born in 1910, it's very likely there's no more greatest generations left today because the oldest will be 109 and the youngest would be I'm entering all this into a calculator because I go on 95, so it's very unlikely people live to that age. Just very in modern world you can, but it's very unlikely. So there's probably not many greatest generations left. Their characteristics, I'm going to be going through who they are, the dates, the name origins and the characteristics. Characteristic could be that they thought they were very, very sturdy, strong and kept going and humble. So number 2, I'm going to have never mind, I'm stupid. I don't know if I can cut that bit out while I went to okay, number 2, the silent generation. Aging between 1925 and 1945. Now, can I just go back to the greatest generation for a bit? This is basically the younger brother of the greatest generation. The greatest generation were the fathers of the baby boomers, we'll get to later. Silent generation were born between 1925 and 1945, so between wars and to the end of the war. And there might still be some silent generations left, the youngest would be 74, which is a perfectly accomplished age, which you can live to. And the oldest would be, I'm really sorry about this. 2019 minus blah, 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 1925. God, this is a dull video. The oldest would be 94. They were called that because, according to Google, they were known for just keeping silent, getting on with their work. And it's probably because they're so silent you've never heard of them. And yes, they're so silent because they were just known for just getting on, keeping their head down, not complaining, not kicking up a fuss. Number 3, the baby boomers. You've definitely heard of these. These are the fathers and mothers of the millennials. Very likely still alive today. These are your grandparents, essentially. They were called so because after the war, so 1946, their years were 1946 to 1964. So, mid 40s to mid 60s. They were called this because in that time, after a war, the population of males had gone down so much, people just started having babies like it was going out of style, and there was a baby boom, hence baby boomers. They were they are known for being in very invested. This is just the Google definition. They're invested in their professional outlook and take great pride in their work, and also hold on to their positions for life. Basically, work till a very old age. That can easily be explainable from attitudes from youth, but these are the sons and daughters of the greatest generation. Those attitudes can be explained from youth, and they were youth and the baby boomers are known for having big fights with the millennials, and they're kind of the reason, like, we'll get on to millennials later, but they're kind of the reasons millennials don't have jobs, because baby boomers don't like giving up their jobs, because they have a very work till you die attitude about them. But they retire, they'll retire eventually. The next generation is Generation X. Now, if you're Generation Z, this is most likely, which I am, this is most likely your mother or father. They're born 1965 to 1980, so making the youngest 39, and the oldest 54. The oldest 64. Now, I had to go for a bit. It's quite confusing why they're known as Generation X, because we've had all these creative names: Silent Generation, Greatest Generation, Baby Boomers, which kind of explain what their attitude and how they work. But they're purely called Generation X because it's the start of the they're starting the trend of calling generations after alphabets and letters, and they're also known as the baby bust because unlike after a war where baby boomers skyrocketed, babies have plummeted, and their characteristics are known to be independent, resourceful, and quite self-sufficient, and they value freedom, workplace responsibility, and have great respect for structure and authority. Millennials are the children of the baby boomers. These are the generation you're most likely heard of because they're constantly in the news getting yelled at and they mean to, and they kind of deserve it, they kind of don't. They're also known as Generation Y, and they were born 1981 to 1996, making the oldest 38 and the youngest, brief pause for calculator break, 1996, and the youngest 23. They were called that because most of them came of age, so turned 18 in the turning of the millennium, the end of the 1900s to the 19,000s to the 20, whatever you want to call it, the 2000s. And they can be split up into two portions. The millennials who did most of their growing up in the 90s and came of age in the millennium, or the millennials who were born in the 90s and did most of their growing up in the noughties, early 2000s, yes. And their characteristics, they're known for being pampered. They have two characteristics: bad characteristics and good characteristics. Their bad characteristics being they're pampered, nurtured, spoiled, apathetic, work shy, and offenders at everything. But their good points are they're very diverse, they're very loyal, they're ambitious, and they're also not afraid to question authority, which you can take as a bad thing. I take that as a bad thing, but that's just my opinion. You can take that as a very good thing. They're not afraid to question laws or structured rules, which is a good thing and a bad thing, I suppose. The next generation, these are the children of the Generation X's. This is Generation Z, being 1997 to 2009, making the youngest 10, and the oldest 22. Now, they can be split into two Generation X's too, two Generation Z's too. Sorry, again, my words muddled. The first one, who were born in the very late 90s, and saw the millennium, but they were still only 3 or 2 or 1, and they did most of their growing up in the noughties. which are the nickname for the early 2000s, or the one which I am myself a part of, the ones born in the late 2000s and are doing most of their growing up in the 2000 teens. I'm still a child, so I'm still doing most of my growing up. This video has dragged on for ages. Like, my last video was like 2 minutes. I'll have to fact check that one. They're purely... Sorry, I've lost my notes. They were called... Millennials they were called simply to go accordance with the alphabet. We had Generation X, Generation Y, or Millennials, and now we're having Generation Z, just going in accordance with the alphabet. Now, the next one, the final generation, the generation we're going through right now, and just before it's the one you can keep in mind, many scientists can use it as acknowledge, damn it, you know what I'm trying to say, acknowledge, this wasn't that hard, was it? Acknowledge this generation as being real, yet Wikipedia do not accept their existence. So it's up to debate. Yes, I do not believe some of it, but I do believe most of it. Generation Alpha, 2010 to 2025. I personally do not believe the end date, because I do not believe you can set a generation an end date unless it's actually ended. That's just my view, that's just my opinion. And you can argue whether Generation Alpha is real. Their timeline is I've already told you, Generation Alpha, and it'd be nice to see if you comment what you think, but Generation Alpha is just the youngest generation, the current generation, and like Generation Z and Generation Alpha don't really have any characteristics. Generation Z is rated as children, basically. Like, some of us are adults, but we don't really have children. Generation Alpha is a new generation that started in 2010, quite recently, and I believe it's real, but I don't believe in the end date. Now, whilst Generation Z has no characteristics because we're children, these are the characteristics of Generation Alpha. Yeah, they're practically all children. The oldest would be 9. Like, the oldest would be 9, they're mostly babies. I think there's roughly 74 million in the US. I don't know for UK, but you have to fact check that one. But anyway, thank you. That's all 7 generations. Thank you for listening. I know few people are probably listening, literally no one. I've put a lot more effort than I probably would in normal. Like, this is maybe be a bit better quality. And even if, like, it's very likely I'll try to edit it on the app I've got, and it turns out the edits just turn out to be awful. But even so, I'll post it anyway, because I've just put too much time and effort into it. I've just put 13 minutes into it, so, and I'd just be crushed if I couldn't upload it. So I'll probably upload it anyway. So if it doesn't work, well, you're just going to be sitting watching a silent black screen, and the sound of someone talking in the background. Thank you, this has been a Posh Geordie. Merry Christmas, and I hope you enjoy this video that has nothing to do with Christmas.